to all my dear students. On behalf of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I once again welcome each one of you present over here with us. A very good afternoon, Purva, Ritu, Nidhi, Swati, Nikita, Nanya Kumari, Soumya, Nishit, Shakya. Very good, all those who have written. We have revised Companies Act Part 1 that we have done. That's wonderful. So today, children, we'll be winding up the first presentation, and the day after tomorrow, when you have the last session for your CA Foundation Law, we'll be winding up with the Companies Act. So all your presentations, even the second part, has already been uploaded on the portal, so you can download the presentations. Let us now begin with the session that we were doing last time, that is types of companies we were to start. So any doubts till now what we have discussed in the last time? I really feel very joyful when you write, children, that you have revised your task. So that's really wonderful. So we have done corporate bail theory. If you remember, we have discussed 4 to 5 important case laws in the last session, and all my children have revised it well. So that's great. Let me see if there are any queries. Mehek, Ritu, Aisha Sood. Good afternoon, children. It's okay, Bhumika Chauhan. You will understand the session now, even if you did not attend it last time. We have done corporate bail theory and the important case laws when the corporate bail can be lifted. Samina, Lisa, Ayush Bansal. Good afternoon, children. Satvik. Okay, that's great. All right. Great. Nishit Shakya has written all clear, ma'am. No doubts. Wonderful. So that's really wonderful. So today we'll be moving ahead with classes of companies. Somebody has written, ma'am, do we have to, Makora versus Northern Assurance is also a case law for separate legal entity? Definitely. That also tells you that the company is different and shareholders are different. And insurable interest cannot be held in the name of the members. It has to be taken in the name of a company. So let's quickly test our knowledge. I think we have not done any of the MCQs in the last session. So this will help us to know how well you have understood. So test your knowledge for question number 1, where you're thinking gaps, children. Company is a person different from its shareholders. Is it true or false? Is it true or false? It's okay, Ritu Tiwari, even if you missed the yesterday's class, you will understand when we revise the content today. Mr. Manish Jain, corporate bail theory summary you are asking. So it basically tells you, first you answer this question, then I will reveal what is corporate bail theory about. Company is a person different from its shareholders, true or false? Excellent, Vaishnavi Chaudhary, Satvik, Swati, Aditya, Ritu. All those who have sent the correct answers are P. Surya, Soumya. That was pretty easy. Kevin says true as per the separate legal concept. Excellent, Nikita, Vipul. So those who were asking about corporate bail theory, this is the corporate bail theory, which tells us that the company is different from its shareholders. All right, there's another question in front of you. A company ABC Limited. So when I say ABC Limited, is it a private company or a public company? Let me test your knowledge before we do today public and private company. ABC Limited is a public company or a private company, children? Then we'll proceed to the question. So what is it? It's a public or a private company? Excellent. It's a public company. How do you come to know? Because the words limited, if it is written limited, that means it's a public limited company. With the private limited company, we always use the words private limited. So had it been a private owned company, I would have written ABC Private Limited. So wherever it is written LTD only, the limited word is used. That means it's a public limited company. Alright, a company has 5 directors. All the directors met with an accident and died. Will ABC company come to an end? Yes, or it continues to exist as it has perpetual succession. What is your answer in this context? Will it continue or it will come to an end? Satvik, Bhumika are saying it's a private company. Alfie Thangal is also saying private company. No, it's wrong. When it is written ABC Limited, children, when we do today public and private company, you'll understand the difference. Tamanna, Nikita, Arpi Shah, absolutely correct. Vaishnavi, it's a public company. Why? Because with the private company, we use the word private limited. Yes, Nishid, limited is used is mentioned in case of a public company. Very good, Aisha Sood. Great. So answer 2B is the correct one. We all know that because we have discussed it last time also. It has a perpetual succession. So even if the no directors left, still the company will continue to exist. And how do we get the company removed? We have to get its name striked off from the registrar of companies. We have to file an application with National Company Law Tribunal, and all that procedure will be taken. This is what you will learn in your CA intermediate course, how the winding up actually happens. So as of now, we simply have to remember that its succession is perpetual. It continues to exist. Now, this is very, very interesting case law and helps me to understand how many of you have actually revised it. So ABC Private Limited. So when I've written private limited, it is a private company. अगर मैंने ये clear words लिख दिए ना बच्चे private limited, तो that means ये private company. अगर ये word नहीं होता है private and only word limited is there, then it means it's a public company. This is the major difference between the public and private company. With public company, we use limited word only. That means we have not defined it's a private. Limited means public at large is involved. And when it's a private and closed company where only 2 to maximum 200 members are there, then we have the words private limited has to be put in case of a private company. Private company was opened by Mr. A just to distribute the income that he has earned by the way of dividends and interest to evade taxes. In your opinion, is it advisable to lift the corporate veil? The answer is yes, the veil should be lifted, or no, the company is different from its members, corporate veil should not be lifted. What should be your answer? And please give reasons with your answer. Why do you say yes, or maybe why do you say no? So whatever you say, you have to give me the reasons also. Great. ROC, we can remove the company. Very good, Mr. Kevin. Great. Samina Abdul, the first one to answer. Bharat Chaudhary, the first one to answer. Yes, the veil should be lifted. Mahavir, Satvik, Sichang, Vipul, all of you have revised it. Great. Richa Kumari, your answer is wrong. Nikita, correct. Tiwari Radhesham, correct. Aditya, Surya, Kevin, Shriya, Bharat Chaudhary, Alfie Tangal, Aditi, Ayushi Botram, Jagmeet Singh, all of you are correct, children. Yes, the veil should be lifted because the company is merely a sham. Very good, Tiwari Ratisham. It has been formed just for evading the taxes. So it's absolutely correct. Great. So can anyone recall the name of the case law which taught us about this? What was the name of the case law which told us that in case the individual is distributing its income into 4 different companies and taking it by the way of loan back from it. So what was the name of case law which told us that the corporate veil should be lifted in this case? Who remembers? Who can recall the case law? Because it's a private company, that's why no, Miss Priyanka, that's not the reason. Because he was just trying to create a sham, mere sham, that is just a fraud that he was doing. That's why it's a corporate veil needs to be lifted. Aditi is correct. Surya Kumari is also correct. Very good. Bharat Chaudhary, Shriya, Mahavir, Aditya, Darshan, Sri, yes. All those who have written Dinshaw, Manikji, Pettit case and Dinshaw case law is also correct. Tax evasion is a crime, Bharat Chaudhary is saying. All right, it's a crime, but then evading of taxes, we have just covered under it. That corporate will be lifted. That means that now you cannot say that the company and you are different. You will be treated as one and the same thing, and you will not be allowed to evade the taxes at any cost. So you have to pay the taxes on whatever income you're earning. You cannot avoid it. So these are the questions which we'll do after understanding what is public and private companies. So let's quickly start with the classes of company. Great, all those who have written Dinshaw case. Very good. Yes, Tisha, that's correct. Tisha, your name is coming as Tiwari Radhesham. I don't know why. Okay. Satvik is saying Jugli Lal versus Commissioner of Income Tax. Okay, so you have given the another case law that is mentioned over there. That's also correct. Good. So let's now leave the admin query block, come out of from the portal and just pay your full attention over here. We are going to proceed further today with the classes of companies. So the first class of companies, children, says on the basis of incorporation. So we remember that I told you that partnership firm was not a compulsory registration, but under companies, it is must that you have to get yourself registered. And once the company is registered, it gets that stamp, it gets that thappa of registration, it becomes incorporated. So incorporation का basic मतलब होता है formation of a company. How the company is incorporated, we'll understand the entire procedure in the next presentation. We have entire presentation for you where we tell you how the promoters come, how they have an idea, how they sign the memorandum. So that is the entire procedure of incorporation of a company. So after incorporation, so on the basis of incorporation, it says, law says simply when you say that the company has been incorporated, it becomes a registered company. So registered companies are further divided into company limited by shares, by guarantee or unlimited company, and they are further divided into public or a private company. So company limited by guarantee can be public or private company, unlimited companies can be public or private company, but all the companies have to be registered first. So registered companies simply mean the companies which are registered with the Companies Act under Companies Act 2013 with the Registrar of Companies. Statutory companies. Remember last time when we were discussing electricity department companies, insurance companies, to all those companies, ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is governed by ICAI Act itself. But still, all the companies where you're forming, you have applicability of Companies Act 2013. So insurance is actually regulating under IRDA Act, but the basic provision of separate legal concept, your shareholders, your directors, all the provisions of Companies Act are applicable to them. So all these are statutory companies, companies which are formed by a different statute, by their own act. So ICAI is formed under ICAI Act. So that is known as a statutory company. Chartered companies like East India Company are no longer into existence, so you can just simply ignore them. On the basis of liability, we have three different variants: companies limited by shares, by guarantee, and unlimited company. Now, what is the meaning of company limited by shares? I taught you last time also, if the company is limited by shares means the liability of the shareholder is limited up to the amount unpaid on the shares. So let us read the entire content from your study material so you can clearly understand where it is written and what it is talking about. All right. So we have already discussed all these points from the study material. Company limited by shares. So all of you should be on the same page. In case of company on the basis of liability, there are three different variants. Company limited by shares, limited by guarantee, and unlimited company. Now, section 2, subsection 22. So do we have to learn the sections in CA Foundation? I told you it's not compulsory to learn the sections. If you can learn, well and good. Otherwise, you can leave the sections as of now. So it clearly defines that liability of the members is limited by its memorandum of association. So children, I told you last time that there are two important documents of a company, that is MOA and another one is AOA. Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association. So now if the company is limited by shares, that means we have shareholders. When it is talking about the shares, that means we have shareholders. So whatever liabilities, say for example, there are three shareholders, A, B and C. These are the three members, shareholders of the company, and company is limited by shares. So whatever is the liability of A, B, and C, it will be number one mentioned in the MOA, not in the articles. We will mention the liability of the members in Memorandum of Association. And what is the amount? Number two, the amount of liability will be any amount unpaid on the shares held by them. Such a company is known as company limited by shares. So easy hogi hamari definition. How we define the company limited by shares? Number one, we have to mention the liability of the members in the Memorandum of Association. And what is the liability? The amount of shares unpaid on the shares held by them. So what is this meaning of amount unpaid on the shares? Let us understand with the help of an example. Say, for example, you have taken 1000 shares. A took 1000 shares in the company at the rate of rupees 10 per share. And remember, share application allotment accounts में पढ़ा आप सबने, paid up capital, called up money. So he paid up the amount at the rate of rupees 8 per share. So how much share capital he has already paid, children? You all know maths. 1000 into 8 is equal to 8000 rupees he has already paid up. Right? So out of the 10,000 capital that he has invested in a company, 1000 shares he has taken up at the rate of rupees 10 per share, and he has paid the amount of rupees 8 per share. All of you have to quickly answer me how much share capital is unpaid. The unpaid capital of A is, you have to tell me, what will be the unpaid capital of A? Yes? What will be the amount of unpaid capital of A? Just clear this drawing. How much will be the amount of unpaid capital? So there are 1000 shares, paid up rupees 8 per share. So 8000 was the paid up capital. The unpaid capital is absolutely correct. All of you have sent the correct answer, 2000. That means 1000 shares at the rate of rupees 2 per share is the unpaid capital. Now, whenever the company wants to invite Mr. A for his liability, he cannot demand more than rupees 2000. Why? Because your capital is, your liability is limited by shares. Let's assume the liability of company was 25,000 rupees. So how much A needs to pay? A cannot pay more than, not more than rupees 2000. Why? Because rupees 2 was the unpaid share amount, unpaid amount of the shares held by him. Therefore, he can only be invited to pay the amount which has not been paid on his share capital. In a company limited by shares, your liability becomes limited. Your personal assets are never liable to meet the debts of the company. So how the balance 23,000 is going to be met? The company will sell off his assets and will dispose of the companies and pay off the debts of the company. Your liability as a shareholder is only limited to the extent unpaid of the shares. Clear ho gaya? Let me see what you have written in the queries also. All right. So all of you have sent the correct answers. Wonderful. So it says that the debts of the company, the shareholders can be called to contribute only to the extent of the amount unpaid on the shareholding. So this is what we have just discussed. His separate property cannot be used. So I cannot say that, Mr. A, look, 2,000 rupees, so you're paying unpaid on the shares, balance 23,000. I'm going to sell your furniture which is lying in your house and then you have to pay it. No, this is not done. A shareholder is only liable to the extent of his unpaid shareholder. So shareholder is the co-owner of the company. He's not co-owner of the company's assets. Assets of the company remain with the company itself. Why? Because it's a legal natural person. It's a legal person. It has, I remember I told you, company has its own property. So whatever the further debts have to be paid, you will pay from the assets of the company. Clear हो गया? Two important points we have mentioned. Memorandum of association, यहाँ पे अपने notes में लिख लेना. MOA में liability mention होती है and the liability is limited to the extent of unpaid shares, plus the example that we have just discussed in the class. After that, very, very important concept, and 2-3 times my friends have set up this question in the exam, that is company limited by guarantee. Now, what are company limited by guarantees? These are the companies which are generally opened up for a charitable purposes, and the capital that is contributed is in the fees, endowment fees, or other kind of subscriptions that has been taken up in the case of a charitable kind of an organization. Now here, since you're just trying to contribute and do certain donations and other things, here the liability is again limited to the extent of the guarantee that you have given. So here the liability of members is again number one point mentioned in the memorandum of association, not in the articles, it is mentioned in the memorandum. And what is mentioned in the memorandum? The amount the members have agreed to contribute in case of winding up of the company. Very important point. So for example, there are 3 shareholders, A, B, and C, and they have given a guarantee that whenever there will be requirement, I will pay the liability up till rupees 10,000. So guarantee देना, हमने assurity दे दी भी अगर कभी भी जरूरत पड़ेगी जब winding up company की हो रही होगी, तो I will pay the liability up till 10,000. B has given the guarantee for the liability up till rupees 5,000. And C gave the guarantee that I will be liable to the company for rupees 15,000. Now, if the liability of company is rupees 1 lakh tomorrow, how much money can be invited from ABC? A will pay 10,000, B will pay 5,000, and C can be invited to pay 15,000. Ma'am, how the balance 80,000 needs to be met? Company's assets will be disposed of in order to pay off the 80,000. A, B, and C can only be invited to call and pay the amount that they have agreed to pay. So amount guaranteed means here the shareholders have given a guarantee. They have agreed certain amount that this is the amount that I will be contributing as and when the liability occurs. And when they need to contribute? In the event of winding up. Please write down all of you, in case of a company limited by guarantee, in case of a company limited by guarantee, the shareholders, the members can be asked to contribute towards the liability. Members can be asked to contribute towards the liability only in the case of winding up of the company. You cannot ask the members. You cannot ask the members to contribute towards the liability during the lifetime of the company. You cannot ask the members, in case of a company limited by guarantee, children, you cannot ask the members to contribute during the lifetime of the company. All right. So company limited by shares. What happens in case of company limited by shares? The liability can be asked to be paid any time during the lifetime or during the winding up of the company. So this is the major point of difference between these two types of companies. When we say former companies, that means the company which we are talking about, company limited by guarantee. Here you can be asked to dispose of the discharge your liability only after the commencement of winding up. However, in case of companies limited by share, your liability can be called upon any time during the lifetime or during winding up. लिख लिया आप सबने, in case of company limited by guarantee, Only during the winding up, members can be asked to contribute. In case of company limited by shares, during company's lifetime or winding up, anytime you can be called upon to pay your liability. And how much liability you have to pay? Only the amount unpaid of the shares, not beyond that. And in case of guarantee company, only the amount that you have agreed to. What is the common feature of both of them? Both of them liability is mentioned in the memorandum. Both of them have corporate personality and limited liability. Legal personality है दोनों companies की and liability limited है दोनों में. And उसमें unpaid shares की liability है. इसमें आपने जितनी guarantee दी है उतनी liability है. Both the liabilities are stated in the memorandum of the association. So this paragraph tells you about the common features. The second paragraph tells you only the basic differences, that once you can, company limited by guarantee is liable only in the time of winding up of the company. In case of company limited by shares, any time during the company's lifetime or winding up, the shareholders can be invited to pay the liability. Definition of company: guarantee company does not raise its initial working capital from its members because they have no working funds are needed, where these funds can be raised from endowment, fees, charges, donations. Very important. So guarantee company are generally a charitable kind of associations. They don't have their initial working funds, no. That's why they are not required to contribute during the lifetime. They're required to contribute only in the winding up. Because such a company may be useful only where no working funds are needed. So only if you're doing kind of a charity, people give you donations, fees and charges you have connected, and then you proceed towards your work. Now again, Narendra Kumar Agarwal versus Saroj Malu is a very important case law. No ma'am, you don't have to learn the name of the case law. All those who have written this question, do we have to learn the name of case law? It is not mandatory, but do we have to read this provision? Yes. Anything mentioned in your study material is important to understand also and to read also. So as I always say, study material is the Bible for all of you. You cannot leave a single line from the study material. So it's a Supreme Court judgment. So it again becomes very important to understand. What was written in this judgment is, it says right of a guarantee company to refuse to accept the transfer by a member of his interest is on different footing than the company limited by shares. Membership of a guarantee company may carry privileges which are different from the ordinary shareholders. Now, what kind of privileges it is talking about? This paragraph is simply telling you that a company limited by guarantee has certain benefits, has certain privileges, means it has certain benefits which the company limited by ordinary shareholders does not have. So the example is, if the company is limited by guarantee and this company has share capital also, then in that case, first, the shareholders will be invited to pay the amount which is unpaid on the shares. And then if anything is left, the amount guaranteed will be required to be paid off. So you can write it down. In case of a company limited by guarantee, this Narendra Kumar Agarwal versus Saroj Malu, iska conclusion kya tha case law ka? Ye kya kehta hai aapko case law? What is the context? What is the summary? What is the output of this case law? Is that in case of a company limited by guarantee and that company is also having shareholdings and company is also having share capital, in that case, the liability to be paid off will be that the shareholders will be invited first to pay the amount unpaid on the shares. Shareholders will be invited to pay the amount unpaid on the shares, and any amount or balance left, in case of any balance liability left, the amount guaranteed will be required to be paid off. So for example, if there is a liability of 1 lakh rupees, and after inviting the unpaid share capital, let's assume there is a liability. The liability of the company was 1 lakh rupees. The unpaid share capital which you invited from all the shareholders was 1,10,000. Do we need to ask for the guarantee money? Yes or no? You have to answer me. Do we need to ask for the guarantee money to be paid? Yes or no? What do you think, children? The moment I try to change it, it just goes there. I hope you have written it down because it has become unclear now. So the liability of the company was 1 lakh rupees. After inviting the unpaid amount from the shareholders, it become 1,10,000. Do we need to ask the shareholders who have given the guarantee money to be called off? Yes or no? Yes, Aditya, in case of a balance, definitely you will have to cause. No, there is excess liability. Excellent, Ayesha. Samina, Mohammed, those who have written the correct answer, Bhumika, Shriya Tiwari, all of you are correct, children. No, we will not be required to ask for the money. Why? Because the liability has already been met from the amount that the shareholders have paid. So if the shareholders, so first invitation will be given to the shareholders to pay the unpaid share capital, and then if any balance is left, the amount guaranteed will be utilized. So this is the major difference. This is what Narendra Kumar Agarwal case law tells us about. And what is the meaning of unlimited company? You have to tell me what is the meaning. When we say the liability of the members is unlimited, that means your liability extends to whole of the company's debts and liabilities have to be paid. And if the amount is not sufficient, you might have to pay from your personal assets as well. Here, the articles of association will be stating your liability. Where it is written how much you have to pay, articles of association will state the amount of share capital and the amount of share held by you. As long as it is a going concern, means the company is running, the liability is only limited to the extent enforced by the company. However, the creditors can go for the winding up, then you have to pay your liability, which is unlimited. So unlimited company is simple as we have understood in partnership, your liability was unlimited. Similarly, unlimited company is a company which has no limit on the liability of its members. अगर आपकी liability company की 1 crore है, and whether you have given a guarantee or the share capital held by you is just 10 lakh rupees, then also you have to dispose. If all the shareholders total share capital is just 10 lakhs and liability is 1 crore, you have to dispose of the company's assets as well as your personal assets. 1 crore have to be paid off because it's an unlimited company. So you cannot say that my share capital holding is only this much, I will pay this much. Then it could have been the case of company limited by shares. So unlimited company may you have to pay off whole of the liability to the outsiders. Your liability ceases to be when you ceases to be a member. So if you have left the company, you are no longer a member, then you are no longer liable. But unless and until you continue with the company, your liability remains unlimited. So there is no limit on the liability. Whatever is the liability, you have to pay it. Once you leave, ceases means once you leave the company. So when you're no longer a member, you have left the company, you have resigned or whatever you have removed your name from the company, then your liability will also come to an end. It is not limited till the company is not wound up. So you will be invited only at the time of winding up of the company. In both the cases, company limited by guarantee as well as the unlimited companies, you are asked only at the time of winding up to pay off the liability. Members can be called only to contribute in the event of winding up. Liability extends to the company's debts and liabilities. However, we can also claim the contribution from other members. मतलब अगर पैसे पूरे नहीं हो रहे, अगर कंपनी के एसेट्स 1 करोड़ की लाइबिलिटी एंड कंपनी के एसेट्स सिर्फ 99 लाख, तो बैलेंस अमाउंट हैज टू बी रिकवर्ड फ्रॉम द इंडिविजुअल मेंबर्स. क्लियर हो गया? All right, now let's move to a very, very interesting as well as very, very important concept. But before we start one-person company, let me understand how many of you know the meaning of one-person company. What is one-person company? So when I ask you a question now, I have to go to your query session and also check if there are anything you want to ask. Meanwhile, you can answer me. What do you understand by one-person company? Corporate veil is lifted on account of fund. No, Mr. Kevin, why do you want to lift the corporate veil just because it's an unlimited company? So corporate veil concept is different. Liability dividing concepts is different. Okay, so there is nothing to correlate between them. Aditya says it's a sole proprietor. Okay. Shriya Tiwari, excellent. A company incorporated by a single person makes sense. Aisha says sole proprietor. Yes, Tisha, then your personal assets have to be disposed of in case it's an unlimited company. Mohammad Asif, you're right. Nishit is also right. Good. Mahalakshmi, in case the shareholder doesn't want to pay unpaid share child, so when you have been invited, when it's a company limited by shares and your liability is invited, either during the lifetime or winding up, you have to pay whatever amount is left on the unpaid. You cannot assume that, no, I will not pay. So then the company will take actions against you. Okay. Alfie Thangal, that is investment. So when you go to FM and other investment chapters, you can understand here we simply remember that we are taking the shares, we are investing the shares in the company and how our liability to what extent is limited or not. Okay, so for sole proprietor, many of you have given a very interesting answer. Khan, Mujahid, Richa, Himanshu, Swati, Nikita, all of you very interesting. A company which is incorporated by a single individual. So all my friends who said that it's this is a sole proprietor. So let me just correct you. It's not a sole proprietor company. It's a company which is formed by a single individual. So you can see this man wearing spectacles in this picture in his study material, and he's all ready to go with his bag and set up a own company. So government has introduced a new concept in 2013 Companies Act. When this act was amended and new provisions were introduced, it was held in order to encourage the entrepreneurship. So I told you last time also, I as an individual, I want to do my business, I'm doing my business. But now government has given me the liberty to expand my business and also give it a corporatization. Means I can also form a company all alone. प्राइवेट कंपनी में क्या होता है मिनिमम 2 people required, public company में minimum 7 are required. So if today Harleen ma'am thinks that I want to open a company, don't you think I will need one more person because I want to open a private limited company? At least 2 बंदे तो चाहिए ही है ना minimum. Even for partnership you need minimum 2 partners. For LLP also you have to have minimum 2 partners. For a private limited company also you need only 2 people. But I thought that I alone want to do some business. Why don't I just, I want to encourage entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship means business skills. So I have business skills and I want to do something, but I want to do it alone. So government thought that there are many individuals who are having the skill set, but just because now if I'm opening up with someone else, I told you partnership is also on the basis of mutual trust and confidence. You have to rely on the other person also. There was a relationship of mutual agency also. But ये one person company concept कितनी ज्यादा आपको independence मिल गई कि आपको बाहर जाकर पार्टनर नहीं ढूंढना है, आपको बाहर जाकर प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी के लिए मेंबर नहीं ढूंढना है, आप खुद ही कंपनी बना लीजिए. अब आप बोलेंगे मैम फिर सोल प्रोप्राइटर में भी तो थे हम, तो फिर कंपनी की जरूरत क्या पड़ी हमें? So what is the difference between a sole proprietor and one person company? Why do we need to open a company? Can't I do a business as a sole proprietor? I was doing quite well business as a sole proprietor also. Why do I need to set up a company? It says one company is different from a sole proprietor because OPC is a separate legal entity with a limited liability of a member. When you're a sole proprietor and you're running a shop, I told you yesterday also, last time also, that whole of your liability is unlimited. क्या होता है हमारे केस में? In case of a sole proprietor, SPM writing, liability is unlimited. However, in OPC, your liability is limited. Plus you get a corporate structure also. Also you get a corporate structure. What is the meaning of corporate structure? That means now you have a separate legal entity. Your company is different and you, one individual, you are different. All the assets owned by the company is the owner. All the assets owned by you, you are the owner. So you both are separate. You can do the business in the name of a company. You will get a separate legal existence. Your company comes into existence as a separate legal entity and liability will become limited. So whatever I've invested in my business, my liability is limited to a certain extent. I do not have to go beyond that. However, in sole proprietor, my liability was so huge and unlimited and I don't get any corporate existence also. So in order to have more and more entrepreneurs coming up, setting up the business in a country and promoting more and more corporatization, therefore OPC concept was given into a rise. So it says that now liability is not only restricted, your liability also becomes limited, and you do not have to extend to whole of your owner's assets. So in sole proprietor, your liability was extending to whole of the entire assets, official as well as personal. You were liable personally as well. Na? You cannot say that you are an individual who's running the shop. Tomorrow the creditors are standing outside your shop. Can you say that no, it's a company, I will not pay it? You have to pay to all your suppliers and creditors. But in case of a company, your company is also working with you. Na? So you have a separate concept. A corporatization is promoted by setting up a company. Procedural requirements, whatever the requirements of OPC, for setting up the OPC, they're very, very simplified through exemptions provided. So in comparison to other companies, rather than if you want to set up a public company, huge formalities are required, but OPC does not have those many formalities. OPC is a private limited company with minimum paid up share capital and having at least one member. अब एक तो चाहिए ही ना. Private company and partnership में minimum 2 people थे. OPC is a new concept where only one single person can open up a company and he can start doing the business. So tomorrow I want to do a business as a company. I don't have to go in search of a person, people. I will just set up my own OPC and get it self-registered with a simplified procedure, because many exemptions are also given to an OPC. Therefore, I can alone set up a private limited company with the minimum share capital as we prescribed. So I told you companies' rules keep amending from time to time. As of now, no limit has been prescribed. But if the government says that you have to have OPC with minimum 1 lakh of share capital or minimum 1 crore of share capital, then minimum paid up capital has to be that whatever is prescribed. As of now, any limit is prescribed? No, ma'am. As of now, no limit is prescribed. You can simply read this: no minimum paid up capital. But why we read this line under section 3, subsection 1, subclause C? Because this is the definition which has been given. It says the limit will be prescribed only above by the government, either in the Company Act or the company's rules. So if whenever the provision is made that this paid up capital has to be this much, then you have to follow the same. How many members can be there in the OPC? Ma'am, only one person as a member. Very simple. Do we have any minimum paid up capital? No, ma'am, we don't have any minimum paid up capital. These 3-4 points relate to the nominee of a OPC. But before we do the nominee, you have to tell me what is the meaning of nominee. Nominee hota kaun hai? What is the meaning of a nominee? Yes, Mohammed Asif, all those companies which have opened up a single individual and they get themselves registered, all these examples that you're giving is an OPC. Aisha is asking, ma'am, can there be 2 members in OPC? You tell me, child, when there are 2 members, it will automatically become a private limited company, no? So OPC अपने आप में नाम ही बता रहा है आपको 1% company. So we generally have a nominee in case of OPC, but I'm asking you, what is the meaning of nominee? Anyone knows? Legal representative is also known as nominee. Good, Bharat, that is very correct. Turnover is also limited. No, Vaishnavi, we never read anything about that. Whether the turnover is limited or not, we just have read. Children, see, in OPC, whatever points we are doing, whatever points are given in the study material, we only have to restrict ourselves to those certain points and also start making the points in OPC. It becomes very, very easy for you to learn when you try to learn in different points. All right. Okay. So nominee, very rightly mentioned by all of you, that if in case the individual, the member dies or some uncertainty happen, then who will take care of the entire business? So very right. If owner is dead, nominee will get the ownership. After the death, the nominee becomes the member. Very good. Swati Giri, Abhishek, Shriya, Ritu, Nishit, Kevin. Yes, those who qualified person to hire. Very good. Bhumika, very right. So that's why it says that in case of an OPC, a nominee is very important. So those who were asking, ma'am, अगर 2 लोग हो जाएंगे तो 2 लोग हो जाएंगे तो वैसे ही private company बन जाएगी ना? Then we don't need an OPC. So for an OPC, you have only one person as a member, no limit on the paid up capital, and the third memorandum will tell the name of the other person who, in case of the death or incapacity to contract, will become the member of the company. So this third other person is known as the nominee of OPC. अब वो कहते हैं आप जब भी ओपीसी खोल रहे हो या ओपीसी बना रहे हो, तो आपको मेमोरेंडम में इस नॉमिनी का नाम देना बहुत जरूरी, बिकॉज आपकी 1% कंपनी है. टुमारो इफ यू डाई or his incapacity to contract means you become unsound mind, or you go insane, or you are disqualified by law to enter into contract, then who will run the business? Somebody is required to be the member of the company. It's a 1% company, so please tell the name of nominee in case of your absence. Who will hand over and take over the business? That nominee you have to mention in the memorandum. The other person whose name is given in the memorandum will give his prior written consent, and the form will be registered with the ROC. Now, let's assume that only one member, Mr. X, has opened an OPC. So my question to all of you is, when X opened OPC, he said X Private Limited Company. X OPC. X will be OPC because words OPC are used after the name of the person. X OPC Private Limited Company. So can we have X OPC Limited Company? Yes or no? Can we have OPC as a public company? Are we allowed to have OPC as a public company? Can we? All right. Can we have OPC as a public company? No, ma'am, we cannot have OPC as a public company. Excellent, Ritu, Bhumika, Vadikar, Baba Saheb, Mahalakshmi. Why? Because OPC can always be a private limited company. Kevin, we will just take this query that you have mentioned once we are done with the public and private company also. But here you simply have to understand, children, OPC can only be held as a private limited company. All right, let's proceed ahead. After that, I told you, so let's have this Mr. X who has opened up an OPC. Now this Mr. X, there is no minimum paid up capital that we have prescribed for Mr. X. So he has opened up the made up capital of his own choice, that is 10 lakh rupees. In his memorandum, Mr. X has mentioned that the nominee is Mr. A will be appointed as the nominee. So what will happen tomorrow if Mr. X dies or any problem occurs with Mr. X, Mr. A will take over the business of this OPC. This is what we have understood. Now, this other person means this Mr. A. Who is the other person? Other person is the nominee. Mr. A, whose name is given in the memorandum, has to get a written consent filed with the registrar of companies. So this Mr. A will file a written consent. Okay, fine, Mr. X, I'm ready to work with you as a nominee. You have opened up an OPC and I'm giving my written consent, my approval to be appointed as a nominee. And this consent has to be filed with the registrar of companies. Why do you think this needs to be done? Because at least the registrar of companies should know that who is the nominee. That nominee also has to be registered. This other person has been given the right to withdraw his consent. Tomorrow, Mr. A says, I'm not very happy with Mr. X. My relationship are not very cordial with Mr. X. I want to remove my name from the nominee. Please feel free to file an application with the registrar and you can also withdraw your consent. So number 4th point says you have to file a consent with the registrar of companies, and 5th says if you want to withdraw, right has been given to withdraw your consent also. Member of OPC may at any time change the name of such other person by giving notice to the company, and the company shall intimate the registrar. Now it says member of OPC means Mr. X. Mr. X can also try to change the name of such person. Mr. X finds that I'm not very happy with the nominee Mr. A. So he said, now I want to appoint nominee Mr. B. Then what do he need to do? He will give a notice to the company, as well as he will also file the notice with the registrar, because you have to tell the registrar, now Mr. A is not the nominee, now Mr. B is the nominee. But do we need to make an alteration in the memorandum? No, we don't need to make any changes in the memorandum. Alteration of memorandum is in itself a very, very vast topic, which you do in CA Intermediate. Here, you simply have to remember that if you're just changing the name of the nominee, नो ऑल्टरेशन इज रिक्वायर्ड। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आपको पूरा का पूरा मेमोरेंडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन कंपनी का निकाल कर सारा का सारा चेंज करना पड़ेगा। नो, you simply intimate the registrar of companies, that's it, and attach that file with the memorandum. That means changes has been made, but alteration in memorandum is not required. Clear ho gaye? All these 3-4 points relate to your nominee. Only one person is in OPC. It's a private limited company. You appoint a nominee. It is compulsory. Nominee's name shall be registered with the registrar of companies. Nominee can withdraw his name, or you can also change the name of the nominee. But remember to get the name registered with the registrar of companies. All right. So only a natural person. Now, who can be appointed as a nominee? This is very, very interesting. In 2021, it is the amendment that has come. Earlier, it was 180 days, but now the latest study material is updated with your recent amendment. You have to remember the provisions of 120 days in case of OPC. So he says, who is eligible to open an OPC, or who can be the nominee or for the sole member of an OPC? It says only a natural person. पहले तो एक इंडिविजुअल ही हो सकता है ओपीसी जो खोले. कैन अ कंपनी ओपन एन ओपीसी? इफ योर कंपनी इज एबीसी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड, कैन दैट एबीसी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड ओपन एन ओपीसी? नो. ओनली अ नेचुरल पर्सन मींस ओनली एन इंडिविजुअल. एक बंदा ही ओपीसी खोल सकता है, नॉट अ कंपनी. Who is an Indian citizen? So can foreign citizens open an OPC? The answer is no. Foreign citizen cannot open an OPC. It is an Indian citizen. अब इसके जो जो सारे points दिए ना, reverse वाले points examiner आपको question में दे सकते हैं. So Miss a foreign citizen opened an OPC. Can it be done? Answer is no, ma'am. It cannot, because a natural person only who is an Indian citizen, whether a resident in India or not. We don't have to see whether, as per the income tax, whether he was a resident or not. No, we just have to see that he stayed in India for a period not less than 120 days during the immediately preceding financial year. So if the year is going on 22-23, then your immediately preceding year will be 1st April 2021 till 31st March 2020. So if we see for this 22-23 assessment year, the previous financial year is 1st April 2021 till 31st March 2022. And that year you have to see whether this person has stayed in India for 120 days or not, immediately preceding financial year. Okay, not the current financial year. The current financial year is 1st April 22 till 31st March 23, जो कि अभी complete होगा. तो इसका पिछला जो previous year था, in that previous year, that person should have stayed in India for minimum 120 days. Then only he can incorporate an OPC. So फटाफट से एक interesting से MCQs कर लेते हैं इसके लिए. Number one question, my question that comes to you is, can Mr. X, who is a foreign citizen, open an OPC? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? Can Mr. X, a foreign citizen, open an OPC? Yes or no? So you all know the answer, no, ma'am, because only an Indian citizen can open the OPC. Okay, second question. Even if Mr. X, a foreign citizen, has stayed in India for 182 days, for 100 days, for he's a resident in India, then also he cannot open an OPC, because foreign citizen तो खोल ही नहीं सकता, Indian का citizen होना चाहिए in order to open an OPC. पहला point बिल्कुल clear हो गया. Second question. Mr. X stayed in India for 3 months. And rest of the 9 months he was outside India. Can he open an OPC? Yes or no? Mr. X, I will have to stop the screen share. Then only I can see your queries, because my admin portal is not working on the other system. So let me just open over here. So Mr. X stayed in India for 3 months. So 3 months around comes to say April, May and June. I have not given you the months. How will you count the number of days? April, May and June. He has stayed in India. So can he open an OPC? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? आपने मुझे बताना है आंसर. No, he cannot, Ritu Tiwari. He cannot have a public company because OPC is private. That's correct. If A is denying to become the member, Ritu Tiwari, if somebody is denying not want to be the nominee, you cannot force him. So he can simply go to the registrar of company and withdraw his consent. Simple. Bhumika Chauhan, in the company limited by shares, you are asking the liability of OPC, the balance liability. In case whenever your liability is limited, you pay the amount which has been guaranteed, either guaranteed mentioned in the memorandum or the company limited by share, the amount unpaid on the share capital. The balance liability has to be borne from the company's assets. So you will dispose of the assets of the company and pay off the liability. Personal liability, your personal assets will not be held liable in case of the limited liability company. And OPC is also a limited liability company. Aisha, this name, you just have to see the procedure of 120 days. So if you're an Indian citizen, you have stayed in India for more than 120 days, then yes, you can open an OPC. And in my question, nobody has sent an answer till now. And simple answer that you have given is no, ma'am, he cannot open OPC. Nobody mentioned that no, ma'am. Okay, very good, Mehak Roy. No, ma'am, because he only stayed in India for 90 days. So he has not met the condition. That is excellent. Okay. So he cannot open an OPC. Bharat Chaudhary, Alfie Tangal, Aisha, Mahavir, Mehak, Samina, Priyanka, Kevin, all of you are correct. Suchang, Tiwari, Nishit, Aditya, Surya Kumari, all of you are correct, children. No, ma'am, he cannot open an OPC because the minimum condition of 120 days is important. Then only he can set up an OPC. All right. So, and if the nominee which I'm appointed, he stayed in India for 186 days, can he be the nominee? Yes or no? If the nominee, Mr. A, stayed in India for 186 days, then can we appoint him as my nominee? Yes, ma'am, we can appoint him because the nominee is also for the sole member. He should also have stayed in India for more than 120 days. So only if you have stayed in India for 120 days, then you can open it up OPC, and the nominee shall also stayed in India for more than 120 days. So you can neither be a nominee, you cannot even be a nominee in an OPC if you have not stayed in India for 122 days. So 120 days is the minimum number of days that you have to stay in India in order to open an OPC. Or even if you want to be the nominee of any OPC, then also 120 days is the condition. No person can incorporate more than one OPC or become nominee in more than one such company. So you can open up one OPC only. You cannot have 5-6 OPCs because one person company can only be run by you as a one person. And you can be nominee also only in one OPC, not more than one. Can a minor become a member in OPC? No, minor cannot become a member. Neither he can be a nominee of OPC. Nor he can hold share with beneficial interest. So he cannot become a member or neither he can be a nominee in any OPC. So if the examiner gives you a case study where he has written that there was a minor who was appointed as the nominee, so you will say that this is not done. You have defeated the provisions of law. It is clearly mentioned under OPC that the minor cannot be the member and neither he can be the nominee of any OPC. Such company cannot be incorporated or converted into Section 8 companies, though it can be converted into public or private companies. So where you were asking me, one girl has written, ma'am, if one person more join me, so we become a private limited company. Anyways, OPC is a private company, but you can get yourself completely converted. So 2 people have joined, now it is not an OPC, now it becomes a private limited company. Or if you want to convert yourself OPC into, you are really doing great business as an OPC and you want public at large to take up shares in your company, they should invest. So you can get yourself converted into public company also. But OPC can never be a Section 8 company. Section 8 companies कौन सी होती हैं जो कि चैरिटेबल एसोसिएशन से रिलेटेड होती हैं. तो अगर मैं आपको बोलूं कि मिस्टर ए ने एक ओपीसी खोली टू प्रमोट social welfare or to promote certain kind of basketball or business or any kind of sports or growth of any particular industry for the charitable purposes, then no, he cannot open the OPC for Section 8 companies. Section 8 companies are totally dealing with the charitable kind of association for the social welfare and social well-being. OPC आप सोशल वेलफेयर एंड सोशल वेलबींग के लिए नहीं खोल सकते, आप अपने बिजनेस मोटिव के लिए ही ओपीसी खोल सकते हो. Neither you can do non-banking financial institutions. You cannot do any non-banking financial investment activities by opening OPC. अगर आपने OPC खोला, it should be purely for the purpose of business, not for any non-banking financial activities. If any person, OPC company or the officer tries to contravene, then the fine of rupees 10,000 rupees and further fine of 1,000 for every day which the default continues has to be paid off. सो 10,000 रुपीज का फाइन लगता है अगर आप कोई भी पनिशेबल ऑफेंस करते हो, अगर आप प्रोविजंस को कॉन्ट्रावेन करते हो, मीन नहीं फॉलो करते हो. सो दिस इज द पेनल्टी दैट हैज टू बी पेड बाय द ओपीसी गाय. एंड मेंबर कैन बी द सोल मेंबर एंड डायरेक्टर. तो आपको ओपीसी में अलग से कोई डायरेक्टर नहीं अपॉइंट करने की जरूरत है, आप खुद ही सोल मेंबर एंड खुद ही डायरेक्टर. So it's a one-member company, private company in nature, encourages entrepreneurship. Procedural requirements are very simple. And the benefit of OPC is it has a separate legal entity concept and the liability is limited. All right. So your liability is limited to the extent of investment that you have made in the business. Okay. So it's already 3 o'clock. So I give you some time. Just go through the OPC and meanwhile, I'll just see your queries and then let's take a small break here and then we will wind up the further type of companies. Thank you. All right. So welcome back, students. I've gone through your queries. Miss Sri S, the conversion of OPC into public and private company, the paragraph that you're mentioning, this has been recently amended. So that's why if you'll see the new study material, it's not mentioned over there about the conversion. All right. So the minimum members, if you are one in case of OPC, the time you become two members, you can have it associated as a private limited company. All right. Okay. So any more queries? So I hope you have understood. OPC is clear to everyone in case of any change in alteration. So Samina Abdul, no change in alteration and memorandum means if you want to simply change the name of nominee, earlier we had Mr. B as the nominee. Now I'm not happy with Mr. B. I want to appoint Mr. C. So I simply need to send an intimation to the registrar of companies. I do not need to amend my memorandum. So there is a whole procedure of alteration of memorandum. When you go to CA intermediate, we will teach you how the memorandum, and here you will only understand what is memorandum of association all about. That I'm going to take up in day after tomorrow session. But when you go and see an intermediate, we have whole full-fledged Companies Act covered over there. There we tell you how the alteration, how the changes in memorandum is made. So it is a whole big procedure. But however, for changing the name of the nominee, you don't need to follow that procedure. You simply need to send an intimation to the registrar. Mr. Kevin, don't worry about Mr. Ratan Tata, how he will manage his business. That will be taken care by him himself. Here, right now, let me just complete the syllabus first because we will be left behind otherwise. Thank you so much, Nishit Shakya. He's saying when I make the notes along with the lecture, things become clearer. Wonderful. So that is what you have to keep following. A nominee will also be Indian citizen. That's correct, Mehak Roy. If nominee doesn't take in... converted into, yes, Aditya, conversion of public and private company. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's proceed ahead. Then everything is clear. Then we should move forward. Fatafat say. Now let us start with the private company. So as the name itself suggests, children, private company means a company which is not a public company. Having a minimum paid up share capital means it is restricting the right to transfer the shares, and except in case of one, the number of members can be 200. So 1-person company, how many number of members minimum and maximum? The minimum and maximum limit both has been prescribed to be 1 in case of an OPC. However, in private company, you have to have minimum 2 people. So the moment you are OPC also, you take 1 more person. Somebody was asking, can we hire an employee? Please feel free to hire as many employees as you want, whether you are OPC, whether you're private or public company. The condition is on the number of members. No, it's nowhere mentioning that OPC cannot have an employee. You can have an employee, but OPC as a member, when you're registered, that's 1 member company. You as an individual, you're running the company. So 2 or more persons holding shares in a company jointly will be treated as a single member. So if 2 and more persons are holding 1 share, they will be considered as 1 member. All right, so let us just do the significant points. So this is the section 2, subsection 68 paragraph, which is written over there in your study material. What you have to read is you have to read the significant points. This is just the summary of what is written for the private company. Or let me just open this in my presentation also for all of you. And I hope, children, you were able to see the presentation in your portal. Now it's updated. All the PPTs are there. So public company means a company which is not a private company. So let us understand first what is a private company. So private company has no minimum paid up capital. I told you even in case of OPC, no limit has been prescribed. In private company also, it says that the capital should be as prescribed, but no limit has been set. Minimum 2 and maximum 200 members, excluding the past and present employees. Very, very important point. So where it is written in the study material, your erstwhile employees and, all those employees who are excluded from the definition, employee come members, erstwhile employee come members, all this means that only the employees that are, only the members are to be considered in case of the private company, that is 200. So if I tell you, if I ask you a question that if I have opened up a private company, HS Private Company Limited, okay, and the minimum members, there were 2 members, and now we have 700 members. So can we operate as a private company having 700 members? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? Quickly, you have to answer me. can we operate having 700 members? Absolutely correct. The answer is no, ma'am, because the maximum cap limit is 200. But what if I tell you out of 700 members, we have 500 present as well as past employees? If I have 500, this 700 include 500 past and present employees. Then can I operate my private company having 700 members? Yes, we can have 700 members. If my 500 members are the employees, that means I am excluding all the present and past employees have to be excluded. So when out of 700, I exclude those 500. So the remaining members that come are 200. So 200 is the max cap that can I have in the private company. Do I have the right to transfer the shares in public company? There are restrictions in public company. In private company, there are certain restrictions on your transferring of shares. In public company, you can freely transfer your shares, but if it is private, it has its own limitations. So you cannot transfer the shares freely. Can you invite the public to subscribe in your securities? No, there is a prohibition. You cannot have public invitations. Why? Because it's a private limited company. You cannot make the public invest at large. So these are the basic points that you have to remember in case of a private company. There is no minimum paid up capital, minimum 2 and maximum 200. Examiner will give you questions. In the next session, we will be taking up mock test papers where I'll tell you that there were 600 employees, there were 200 members. So you simply have to calculate, exclude the number of employees and see minimum balance number of members at 200, then it's fine. All right. So if I say 580 members are there and out of that 380 are the employees. So that means 180 number of members are there. So it is within the cap of 200. So it's absolutely fine. Transfer the shares can be done easily. No, ma'am, in private company, there are restrictions. You cannot transfer the shares freely because the public at large is not involved. So you cannot even invite the subscriptions from the public. Simple. Private company, finish. Public company also you have to learn that it is not a private company. So we have learned the features of private company, minimum 7 and maximum unlimited number of members. So जब आप पब्लिक एट लार्ज इन्वेस्ट कराते हो, अगर आप शेयर्स इनवाइट करते हो पब्लिक से, तो अनलिमिटेड नंबर्स हो सकते हैं, कोई भी आपकी कंपनी के शेयर्स ले सकते हैं, बट मिनिमम 7 नंबर्स आर रिक्वायर्ड इन केस यू वांट टू सेट अप अ पब्लिक कंपनी. The minimum paid up capital is again as prescribed by the government. So government time to time keep on changing and it gives the minimum subscription in the rules. As of now, no limit has been set up. The most important point over here is subsidiary of a public company is deemed to be a public company. Now, what is subsidiary? What is holding? When we understand holding and subsidiary company, there you will understand this point better. As of now, simply understand if I am ABC Limited, so I am a public company and you are my subsidiary ABC Private Limited. So if you are my subsidiary, a private company is my subsidiary, that private company will also be considered as a public company. Why? Because a public company is holding that private company. So let's assume this is a private company. This blue pen is a ABC Private Limited company. And there is a red, this one red. This is a holding company on it. So this is ABC Limited, which is holding ABC Private Limited. Since this company is holding this, it is a subsidiary. Therefore, this ABC Private Limited will also be considered as the public limited company. So if any public company is holding any private limited company, that private limited will also be considered as a public limited company. Although in its articles, it is following the same provisions which are written over there, which are written as a private limited company, which I mentioned over here, but it will be deemed to be a public company because the public at large interest will be involved because it is being held by a public company. Clear ho gaya? All right. So holding and subsidiary, now we're going to start. Holding and subsidiary companies are very, very interesting. So if I am holding more than 50% of the total voting powers in another company, or I try to control the composition of board of directors of the other company, then I become the holding company and the other company becomes my subsidiary. Now, this point or is very, very interesting. Composition of board of directors means I am deciding how your directors are to be appointed, how your appointments will be held, how everything about the composition of board of directors needs to be managed. That holding company will decide. So if I tell you that A company limited is trying to hold is trying to control the board of directors composition in B Company Limited. If A Company Limited is trying to control the board of directors of B Company Limited, then which is the holding company and which is the subsidiary company, you have to tell. If A company is controlling the board of directors of B Company Limited, then which is the holding and which is the subsidiary company, children? You have to tell me that. So for your seeing your answers, I need to go over here. A is the holding company, B is the subsidiary. Excellent, Aisha Tasneem, the first one to answer. Yes, Surya Kumari, great. All right, all of you have sent the correct answer for the previous number of employees one also. Nidhi Company, Ritu Tiwari, we will do that as well, don't worry. A person who is a nominee and after incorporation, so Bhumika Chauhan, if person is living outside India, whether he is living in India, we simply have to see that you should be an Indian citizen and you have stayed in India for more than 120 days, then only you will be considered a person eligible to open OPC, as well as the same condition for your nominee. All right, all of you have sent the correct answer. So A Limited will become the holding company and B Company Limited will become your subsidiary company. Now, if I say that I'm not controlling a board of directors, but I'm controlling half of the voting powers in B Company Limited, then also A Company Limited will be your holding company, because there is a or in between both these situations. Either you control the board of directors or you try to hold more than 50% of the share capital. In both the cases, you become holding and the other company is your subsidiary. Like major international acquisitions, Tata Steel Europe, Tata Steel Thailand, all these are the subsidiaries of Tata. Somebody, Kevin, was interested in understanding about Tata. See how many subsidiaries they have: Tata Metallics, Tata Steel, TRR. All these subsidiaries means the major Tata company is holding more than 50% of the share capital in these international acquisitions and other subsidiaries. Now, subsidiaries of subsidiaries. So A company holds B Company Limited, and this B is further holding C Company Limited. So now A is also holding C Company Limited. So all these are having layers of subsidiaries. So here is the A company. It has interest in B company. So A is holding, B is subsidiary. Now B is further holding this C company. So A is also holding C. Jitna uske niche layers banti jayenge subsidiary, so the major principal holder over the above will be holding all these kind of subsidiaries. So whatever the layers of subsidiaries are forming, principal company will be holding interest in all these companies. All right. Let's do some points from the study material also. Okay, that's great. This is how I wanted it to be. Yes. So this is where it is written, except private company and OPC, there will be only one. Present, those who are asking erstwhile means old employees. Present employee come members or erstwhile employee means एक होता है आप member हैं, but अगर आप employee भी हैं साथ में तो employees excluded होते हैं from the limit of 200 members. Okay. Small company we will do. Public company, these are the restrictions which are given. Private company points also done. Here we are discussing holding and subsidiary. So holding company is either controlling the board of directors or it is having control on more than one half of the total voting power, means I'm trying to control half of the share capital, 50% of the share capital holding, either on its own or together with one or more subsidiaries. So if A company is holding 30% of your share capital and A subsidiary B is holding 50%, together we are holding 80%, then also the C company will become subsidiary of A and B both. All right, let's see the examples. It becomes more clearer. A will be subsidiary of B if B control the board of directors of A. Fair enough. If B is controlling the board of directors, then B is subsidiary, A is holding. So that means without consent or approval of B, we cannot appoint the majority of directors. What is the meaning of controlling board of directors? Means with the permission of holding company, you can appoint and remove the directors. Clear हो गया. A will be subsidiary of B if B hold more than 50% of the share capital. So both these example number 2 and 3 gives you the meaning of the definition. Example number 4 tells you about the layers of subsidiary. B is a subsidiary of A and C is a subsidiary of B. So therefore, C is also a subsidiary of A. And if D is a subsidiary, so D will be subsidiary of B as well as A and so on. So jitni uske niche layers banti jayenge, they will be subsidiary of the major principal company as well. Now this point comes status of private company. So it says status of private company, which is a subsidiary, although a private company has in its articles continue to be a private company. But if any private company is my subsidiary, I am a public company. And if any private company is my subsidiary, it shall deem to be a public company for the purpose of this act. So there is a company ABC Limited. ABC Limited kaun si hai, private ya public? Jaldi batao. ABC Limited is a public company. With private company, we use the words private limited, and with public company, we have the words public, private limited company. All right. God. All right. So if I'm having ABC Limited as a public company, and this public company is having a subsidiary DF Private Limited. In such a case, law says, if ABC Limited is a holding company and DF Private Limited is my subsidiary, then DF Private Limited will also be treated as a public company. क्यों? क्योंकि इसकी holding company public company है, इसलिए ये subsidiary company भी एक public company treat करी जाएगी. Public company का treat करने का मतलब होता है it has the right to transfer the shares, prohibition will be removed, public at large can take interest, minimum and maximum numbers will change from 2 and 200 to 7 and unlimited numbers. So it will be considered deemed to be a public company. Whatever provisions are applicable to a public company will become applicable to DF Private Limited also. However, in its articles, it will still continue as a private limited company. Clear this point? Let's move ahead to the associate company. What is the meaning of associate company? So having more than 50% of the share capital in trust, I told you children, we are holding and subsidiary. But if I'm just having a significant influence and it is not my subsidiary, then it becomes an associate company. So we have to understand the meaning of having a significant influence means if I am holding at least 20% of the total voting power in another company and controlling their business decisions. I'm trying to control or participate in the business decisions and having a at least 20%, more than 20%. So if A Limited is having 25% of the control of voting powers in B Limited, A company has controlled 25% of the total voting powers and participate in the business decisions of B Company Limited, then A and B company will be considered as an associate company. They will not be holding subsidiary, they will associate company. And if A company is holding 65% of the shareholding of B Limited, then ma'am, what about associate chodo? Then to fir holding and subsidiary ban gaye, then A is holding and B is subsidiary company. Okay. Now, how we have to calculate this total paid up share capital means we have to see the paid up equity share capital and it's very important. You have to read in law where it is written and where it is written or. And का मतलब दोनों. And convertible preference share capital, in दोनों का aggregate 20% of the share capital interest needs to be seen. So if there is a company having a paid up capital of 50,000 rupees and the convertible preference share capital is 60,000 rupees. So now I have the total paid up share capital will be 1,10,000. Now, if I want to see whether I'm holding 20%, I have to do the 20% of this total paid up capital. Okay, I have to do the 20% of this total 1,10,000. So if examiner says I'm just holding the 20% of the paid up equity share capital, the whole of the total share capital. So if you want to find whether I'm holding interest or not, so we will first take out the paid up equity share capital, you add the preference share capital to it, then the total paid up capital का 20% करके आप देखेंगे whether I'm holding the full interest associate companies in this or not. So here, what will be it? 22,000. So if I'm having 22,000 shares I'm holding in this company, that means I'm having more than at least 20% of the shareholding interest in this company. Not you don't have to do 20% of 50,000. You have to do 20% of total 1,10,000. All right, clear? Then another definition that they have given is circular number 2014 amendment that came. It says Ministry of Corporate Affairs has clarified that the shares held by a company in another company in a fiduciary capacity will not be counted as an associate company. So fiduciary capacity hota hai relationship of trustee and beneficiary. So if you're just holding such kind of capacity shareholding in another company, I am holding the interest in a company as a trustee or as a beneficiary, or holding the interest on the basis of such kind of condition, then it will not be counted for the purpose of associate companies. So any fiduciary capacity of shareholding has to be excluded in counting this 20% shareholding. All right. And another term is joint venture. Joint venture means together we are jointly trying to have the arrangements. Together we are controlling the net assets of another company. Then also they will be considered as the associate company. So associate company अपनी definition में ही include करता है. यहाँ तो आपका significant influence है दूसरी company में, which is 20% of the voting power and participating in the business decisions, or joint venture. And if you are having a joint venture company, then also you become a associate company. That means 2 and more companies are jointly holding your net worth, net assets, then you become an associate company. And what has to be excluded? Fiduciary capacity relationship shareholding has not to be considered in the associate company. So A Limited is a public company and holds 23% of capital in B Limited and 15% of C Limited. So B Limited will be an associate. C Limited will not be an associate because 20% limit has to be required. Hence, there is no significant difference. So if you're just holding 15% share capital, then you don't become a holding and then you don't become associate companies. If you're holding more than 20%, then only you become the associate company. All right. On the basis of capital, ye listed and unlisted companies are very, very simple. Listed companies kaun si hoti hain, children? Whose securities are listed on recognized stock exchange. Nowadays, you keep listening about the share market, trading, how you make investments. Somebody was asking in the morning how you make investments, how you invest in the shares. So there are listed companies whose shares are listed on the recognized stock exchange. So you can go to the share market, trading of the markets can be done. You can purchase the securities and you can then sell them and make money out of that. So this class of companies are in exchange with Securities and Exchange Board of India. In consultation, those companies have been made. They will not be considered as listed companies. So where you just intend to list your securities, you will not become listed companies. These are the companies which has its securities already listed. So only those companies will be considered as the listed companies. Okay. The word securities again has been defined under Securities Contract Regulation Act. तो listed companies at large अगर आप देखेंगे तो SEBI के साथ कंट्रोल होती है, Security and Exchange Board के साथ, and इसकी regulations Security Contract Regulation Act 1956 में in detail they have given. And all the companies whose securities are not listed, they are unlisted companies. Scan Steel Rod is a public limited company whose shares are listed on the Stock Exchange Kolkata. Here, the Scan Steel Rod is a listed company just because the company and stock exchange have signed a listing agreement for trading of the shares in capital market. Simple. Listed company को listed क्यों कहा जाता है? Because they have signed a listing agreement with the stock exchange that we allow your trading of shares. तो अभी जैसे मैंने आपको बताया listed companies वो होती है जिनके stock market में आप shares में trading कर सकते हैं. Meaning of trading means you purchase the shares when you see the value has gone at a higher rate, you sell those shares, and that is how you make profits out of the trading in the share market. So all these companies where you do trading are the listed companies. Okay, we have left one small company in between. That is name of the company itself is small company. Children, I know when we do type of companies, there is a lot of information which is loading and getting piled up in your mind. But the simple thumb rule to learn this is you will make a flow chart today. आज आप अपने घर में एक चार्ट पेपर या कोई भी बड़ी शीट लेंगे, यू विल मेक अ फ्लो चार्ट, राइट टाइप्स ऑफ कंपनीज, try to find out how much information you have retained in your mind, make a chart of public and private company. Very limited information is given in your study material. You only have to learn that. Don't try to figure out more and more information from net. मैं इसकी conversion भी पढ़ लूं, मैं इसके बारे में और भी जान लूं. हमें वैसी बहुत सिलेबस है बेटा, उतना ही पढ़ लो जितना दिया है. ठीक है, उससे बाहर जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट इफ यू आस्क मी आर 1% कंपनी, स्मॉल कंपनी एंड सेक्शन 8 कंपनीज. वैसे सीए फाउंडेशन में ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, दिस इज अनइंपॉर्टेंट, यू कैन लीव दिस. यू विल नॉट लीव अ सिंगल लाइन फ्रॉम योर स्टडी मटेरियल. आई कीप टेलिंग यू अगेन एंड अगेन. आप कुछ भी छोड़कर नहीं जाते हैं पेपर में. आप पूरी स्टडी मटेरियल पढ़कर जाएंगे, मेरे नोट्स पढ़ेंगे, प्रेजेंटेशन सारी देखेंगे, मॉक टेस्ट पेपर्स हम उसके बाद जो करते हैं, रिवाइज करते हैं, वो सारे क्वेश्चंस आप पढ़कर जाएंगे. So we cannot leave anything. There is no concept of important and unimportant, but just for your basic knowledge, how you have to make notes. Type of companies, public company होती है, private company होती है, उसके छोटे छोटे points बना लिए हमने. उसके बाद OPC, OPC के 7-8 points जो आज आपने learn करें. नॉमिनी कौन होता है, 120 days की condition है, नॉमिनी को भी 120 days इंडिया में रहना है, इंडियन सिटीजन जरूरी है, फॉरेन सिटीजन नहीं होना चाहिए. All these, try to make these points in a flow chart. Beautifully make it in a flow chart. I wish we could have the live sessions and I could see how you're doing it, but I trust you that you will be doing it. Okay, then you come to your this small company conditions that we are going to do. Then you have holding subsidiary. Write it with the examples. हमें पढ़ना ही नहीं है होल्डिंग सब्सिडरी क्या कहते हैं. A is controlling the board of directors of B. Yes, ma'am. A is holding B subsidiary. A is trying to have more than 50% of the shareholding capital. Yes, ma'am. A is holding B subsidiary. A is a public company, is holding private limited, B private limited, therefore B also becomes the subsidiary because it is deemed to be the subsidiary if you are a holding company. If public company is the holding company, then private company which it is holding will also become a subsidiary. जो भी points हमने पढ़े हैं उसके examples. Similarly, 20% relationship वाला associate company. हो गया ना क्विक रिविजन. अब इस रिविजन को अपने चार्ट पेपर में लिखना है आपने और समरी बनानी है. Then it becomes very, very simple. And remember, law is very, very simple and you all can crack it. Don't forget that. The only thing is keep revising and keep learning. चलो अब स्मॉल कंपनी देखते हैं. छोटी सी कंपनी, सेक्शन 2 सबसेक्शन 85 में इन्होंने क्या डिफाइन करा है. इट इज अ कंपनी अदर देन पब्लिक कंपनी. मीन्स स्मॉल कंपनी इज ऑलवेज अ प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी. एक और कंपनी मैंने आपको बताई थी जो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी होती है. इट कैन नॉट बी अ पब्लिक कंपनी. विच कंपनी वाज दैट? दैट वाज ओपीसी. तो आज हमने ओपीसी एंड स्मॉल कंपनी दोनों के बारे में ये पॉइंट लर्न करा है दैट ओपीसी एंड स्मॉल कंपनी आर ऑलवेज प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी. दे आर नॉट अ पब्लिक कंपनी. सो स्मॉल कंपनी इज अ कंपनी whose paid up share capital is less than 50 lakh rupees and the turnover as per the profit and loss account immediately preceding year is less than 2 crore rupees. So if my paid up share capital is not exceeding 50 lakhs and my turnover is not exceeding 2 crore, then my dear, I am a small company. So the moment my paid up share capital goes beyond, then I become a different kind of company. But for a small company, whatever features I want to enjoy for a small company, I have to see that my paid up share capital is less than 50 lakh rupees and my turnover is less than 2 crore, then I become a small company. Or such higher amount as has been prescribed should not be more than 10 crore and here written 100 crore. This upper limit has been revised in the recent amendment that came in 2021, which says that the upper limit for the paid up capital will be 2 crores. आप simply इसी में लिख लीजिए. The upper limit has been given. 10 crore को delete कर आप कर दीजिए 2 crore rupees. And this upper limit of turnover that has been given is not 100 crore. It's 20 crores. Simple. So small company जिसकी paid up share capital 50 lakh rupees है or such higher amount means it can be increased till 2 crore rupees. So if government want to make any amendment, it can say that the paid up share capital can be 100 lakhs or 1 crore 50 lakhs, but not more than 2 crores. So the higher limit, these are just the higher limits which have been revised in the recent amendment. So it cannot be exceeded more than 2 crore and the turnover should be seen to be, it should be less than 2 crores, but the maximum limit that can be prescribed is up till 20 crores. Okay. So as it is definition needs to be learned, 50 lakhs and 2 crores की main जो आपने लर्न करनी है वो लिमिट्स है, ये अपर लिमिट्स गिवन है कि आपकी इससे ज्यादा एक्सीड नहीं कर सकती वो लिमिट्स. स्मॉल कंपनी डज नॉट अप्लाई टू होल्डिंग एंड सब्सिडरी. सो स्मॉल कंपनी में हम होल्डिंग एंड सब्सिडरी वाला कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं देखते हैं. It is not a company under Section 8 means Section 8 are the charitable companies. OPC cannot be a Section 8 company and small company can also not be a Section 8 company. And it cannot be a body corporate governed by special act. So ICA is a body corporate governed by ICA Act. So all these body corporate companies which are governed by special act, they are not applying to the small company. Okay. So it should not be a Section 8 company. It should not be a holding and subsidiary. Paid up capital is 50 lakhs, turnover is 2 crores, then it becomes a small company. So if I give you, there is a company ABC Private Limited, its paid up capital is 30 lakh rupees. So it is a small company. I tell you there is a ABC Private Limited whose turnover is 1 crore 50 lakhs. So ma'am, it is a small company. Turnover 2 crore से कम है, paid up capital 50 लाख से कम है, तो आपकी कंपनी का नाम होगा small company. And it is a private company. बस ये छोटा सा ये पैराग्राफ ये आपने लर्न रखना है इसमें. That's it. किस तरह के क्वेश्चंस आते हैं जो पूछ रहे हैं मेरे से, तो मॉक टेस्ट पेपर्स में हम करेंगे नेक्स्ट टाइम जब हमारे टाइप्स ऑफ कंपनीज कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, देन वी विल टेक अप द क्वेश्चंस आल्सो. ऑलराइट, सो नाउ लेट अस कंप्लीट वन मोर कंपनी. वी कैन डू गवर्नमेंट कंपनीज and then next time we will do Section 8 companies, because Section 8 companies are very important and we have to do each and every line of Section 8 companies. So government company is a company in which 51% of the paid up share capital is held either by the central government or by the state government or partly by the central and state government. So that company in which 51% of the shareholding is held by government, it becomes a government company. So if I tell you there is a company ABC Limited, there is a company ABC Limited in which central government is holding 30% of the share capital. There is a company ABC Limited in which central government is holding 30% of the share capital and the state government is holding 40% of the share capital. Is it a government company? Yes or no? Will it be considered as a government company? State government is holding 40% of the share capital and central government is holding 30% of the share capital in ABC Limited. Is it a government company? Will you say ABC Limited is a government company? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? You have to give me the answer. So will it be considered as a government company or not? I'm just reading your answers meanwhile. Can unlisted, Mahavir listed and unlisted company, the only difference, listed companies whose securities are listed on the recognized stock exchange. Thank you, Nishit Shakya. Thank you, Ritu Tiwari. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you so much, children. I also appreciate when you like all this motivation given in between. So that's great. Government share is 70%. Excellent. All those who have sent the correct answer. Yes, ma'am. It will become government company. Richa Kumari, Samina, Suchang, Aisha, Athia, Darshan, Lisa, Alfie Tangal. Alfie Tangal is saying no, ma'am. Why no? It's a government company. Excellent. Only central government is holding 30% share. Okay, Mehak Roy. So I will tell you why it is a government company. Khan Mujahid also says, no, ma'am, it's not a government company, only 30% share. So why I said it's a government company? So now pay attention. So in a government company, children, whether the central government is holding the share or partly the central government is holding, partly the state government is holding, then also it becomes a government company. So in the example that I just shared with you, ABC Limited company, central government was having 30% of the shareholding. Okay? And state government was having 40% of the shareholding. So if you read the paragraph in the study material, it is clearly written either by the central government is holding 51% or the state government is holding 41% or partly means kuch hissa by the central government. Agar central government is having 30% and state government, so together the government is having 70% of the shareholding in ABC Limited. Therefore, ABC Limited becomes a government company. So the answer to this question is, since partly by central government and partly by state government, the shareholding is more than 51% of the share capital. Therefore, ABC Limited is a government company. In the same question, if I would have said 10% is being held by central government and 20% is being held by state government, will then it become a government company? No, ma'am, then it will not become, because it is less than the 51% of the share capital. So 51% is the amount number that you have to see. Totality, central and state government together, if they are holding more than 51%, or central government alone is holding or state government alone is holding more than 51%, then that company will become government company. And also the subsidiary of the government company will also be considered as government company. Just a subsidiary of public company is considered to be a public company. Similarly, any subsidiary of, now if ABC Limited is a government company, so its subsidiary will also be considered as a government company. Clear? All right. So any doubts so far? Okay, good, Mehek, Alfie Thangal. Now you have understood. That's great. Kevin, the word or in the study material, yes. So you have to read it very carefully. So where we mention about holding and subsidiary, there or is mentioned. So either you are controlling the board of directors or you are having 50% of the share capital. In either case, you become a holding company. But when you go to the small company, you have to see paid up share capital is less than 50 lakhs and the turnover is less than 2 crore. Then yes, you become a small company. Why we have to see? Because certain provisions, certain exemptions are given to companies like small companies, Section 8 companies, OPC. So here in CA Foundation, you're only doing their understanding their foundation. That means you're understanding their definitions. What implications are then further applicable to small companies, that you'll understand in your higher classes. Higher classes being CA intermediate and when you go to the finals. Good, Bhumika, Samin, great. Everything is clear. Great. Subsidiaries will also be, yes, any subsidiary of the further holding company, they will also become further subsidiaries. Abhi khatam nahi hua aapka class. All of you are saying very nice, amazing session. So thank you so much. But I still have few MCQs to be done with you. Section 8 you want to do next time? We will do it next time. Small companies we have already done, dormant companies and Section 8 we will do in the next class. But let's just check your basic knowledge also. So what is the maximum number of members under a private company? Quickly give me the answer for this. Maximum number of members under a private company. Send the answer for the fourth one. Maximum number of members. 50, 150, 200 or no limit is given. So for seeing your answers, I'll have to go on the different side. Doubt in associate company. Mr. Suchang, please ask your doubt. I will clear it right away. So 200 is the correct answer, excluding the employees. Excellent. This is what I wanted to all to say, that excluding the employees. Khan Mujahid is saying 50. No, that's incorrect. 200 is the maximum number. In case of a private company is holding another private, then it will also be. Surya Kumari is asking, if private company is holding another private company, then it will become public company. No. If public company is holding any private company, then that private company will become public company. Private is holding private only, then they both remain private limited. It's only if the public company is holding, remember that red and orange pen that you have to remember. So this is a public company and it is holding this blue pen, which is a private limited company. Now, because this is holding a private limited company, this subsidiary will also be deemed to be a public company. All right. Okay, let's see another question. You can send your query. Somebody was asking about associate company. What you have not understood, you can ask. I will explain you. So associate company is basic. Minimum number of members in private company and public company are, quickly answer me that. Okay, somebody who was asking about the associate company, meanwhile pay attention. So associate company, you have to see the relationship of 20% of the shareholding. There I'm talking about the significant influence. I'm participating. Say, for example, there is a company, A company limited, and it take a lot of business decisions in B company limited. So since I'm participating in your business decisions, I'm trying to have certain control on you. But my shareholding is not 50%. I'm just holding 20% of the shareholding. In that case, I'm not your holding company. I'm an associate company. I'm associated with. Okay, so significant influence business decisions needs to be seen. Or we have a joint venture. Jointly, A and B are holding the net assets of C Limited. So if there is certain extent where the joint ventures kind of things are coming up, they will also be considered as an associate company. So the answer to this one, all of you know, 2 and 7 respectively का मतलब होता है कि अगर मैंने private company and public company पूछे तो private में minimum members are 2 and public में 7 respectively. Great. So all of you have sent the correct answer for this one also. And third is significant influence consists how much percentage of total share capital or business decisions under an agreement? At least 2%, at least 10%, at least 2.5%, or at least 20%. What it should be in order to be associate company. How much interest needs to be seen? Sixth, the answer for the sixth one is absolutely correct, 20%, because then only it becomes associate company. Richa, Sachang, Kevin, Priyanka, Nanya, Sri, yes, all of your answers are correct, children. Aditya, Nishit, Samina, Bhumika, Mahavir, all of you are correct. Great. The voting power more than 10%. Yes, Aisha. If the less than 50% but more than 20%, then it's an associate company. So if A Limited is holding 49% share capital of B Limited, then also they're an associate company. They are not holding a subsidiary. Absolutely correct. I hope Tiwari Radhesham, your query is also clear. All right. So I hope students, everything is clear. In case you have any queries, you can feel free to ask. If yes, Swati Giri, if public company is holding the private company, then that private company becomes public company. Okay, that's absolutely correct. Unlimited company, Bharat Chaudhary. Unlimited company is a company where your liability is unlimited. So what is the meaning of unlimited? That means if your liability is 1 lakh rupees and the capital that you have contributed was just 5,000. So you cannot say that I will just pay 5,000 even if the liability is 1 lakh. You will dispose of the company's assets and try to pay off the liability. So say, for example, you dispose of the assets and 80,000 was still paid off. So 5,000 you have paid, 80,000 was paid, 85,000 has been paid. There is a still 15,000 limit which has been left. Now, Bharat Chaudhary, you sell off your personal assets and pay off this 15,000. This is the meaning of unlimited liability. Means आपको अपनी liability पूरी की पूरी pay करनी पड़ेगी, even if you have to dispose your personal assets. So where your liability is limited by shares, only the amount on unpaid on shares you will pay. That's it, nothing beyond that. Where your liability is limited by guarantee, you will only pay the amount that you have guaranteed to pay written in the memorandum. That's it. But where you're part of an unlimited company, then you have to bring your personal assets and you have to complete and pay the liabilities of the company. Okay, there is no limit on the liability. Okay, good. Understood. Shriya, thank you. Radhesham, thank you. Aditya, personal assets. Yes, Aditya, that's correct. More than 50% is equivalent to Nishit Shakya, where it is written not less than 51%. 51% is the limit. More than 50%. So 50% and more than 50% have to be seen, both the things. So even if I'm holding 50% of your share capital, then also I become the holding company and you become subsidiary. Mr. Yash, so the last one, the answer was at least 20%. Okay, it was 20% was the correct answer to that one. Thank you, Samina. Thank you so much, Nikita. Thank you, all of you. Ritu Tiwari, you're asking something. What is your question? You can ask again. All right, children. So let's wind up. So yes, you are correct, Ritu. If you are holding any company, if you're holding, you're having more than 50% of the share capital, whether it is a public or private company, then the company which is holding more than 50% share capital becomes the holding company and the other company becomes your subsidiary. The only point that you have to remember is if that subsidiary is a private company and the holding is public company, then that private company will also be treated as a public company. All right. All right, students. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vaishnavi. Thank you, students. See you all on day after tomorrow, and that will be the last session. We'll be completing our companies. We will be completing memorandum and articles. And also for the last half an hour, we will be doing all the mock test paper important questions from that. In case you have any queries from all the 3 chapters, you can get it done, corrected and cleared on day after tomorrow, Friday's class. Goodbye. Thank you so much.